Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. It's been a little while since I've done a video. I've been very busy getting ready for certain events that have been happening. Today I wanted to talk about the election, the past election, and the coming election in the United States. In the United States, we've been going through our primary series for the midterms. And so we're halfway between the past one and the one that's coming. We've been watching the unfolding of the January 6th committee's efforts to look into what happened with the insurrection that happened on January 6th for the last election, but also there's reporting that's coming out now about the next election where there is an effort to undermine that now by bringing in the people who handle the elections, like the secretaries of state, the judges, the school boards. They're working so that when they do something, they'll have when the conspiracy goes forward, they're bringing in all the people that they need to help them flip things their way. So I wanted to look at that today and step back and address that issue, because as it's unfolding, the existing structure cannot solve this problem, because it's like it's so big, it's got so many people involved. And the reason that it's happening in the first place, so let's look at the root cause of the problem and come up with a plan then that addresses the root cause of the problem. This is happening all over the world. And in fact, our organization, I'm responsible for the advisory aspect of my project, and it's my job to go to other countries and help to set up election processes so that each country that participates can have a structure in place so that they can set up the elected officials who are going to go there. I'm interested in this because it's my job to be interested in it, based on the countries that are going to participate in the international government. I have to set up a structure that makes fair elections in all those countries that are facing the same crisis. So this is like my opportunity to address issues and come up with this idea. I already have insights on how to do it, but that's in a country that doesn't have an existing structure that is based on, let's say, a dictatorship doesn't have an existing structure to set up necessary elections that are free and fair. Okay, so we're looking down the road. Where would we want to be 20 years from now when the international government comes into place, and where we are now? And then we have to figure out the steps to get there and how we're going to get there. We have to know where we are, where we're going, and how to get there. The international government is going to have 2 presidents for each country. One will handle the international government and one will handle the national affairs. They'll work back to back. So every country, no matter who, even if it's a monarchy or whatever, they have to have people who can go and be out of the country for a long time and not have anything to do with the affairs in the country other than how it affects them, and then so it isn't completely separated, but it is a separate layer of government over what already exists. And that's why we have to address our elections in the United States too as part of this, because there's going to be 2 U.S. presidents. Like I said, one for the international level and then one for the national level. we have to change, we have to amend our Constitution to do that, to add another layer of government over what exists, and to have the two presidents. So our elections are going to be very different. You can say, I believe that Donald Trump actually was kind of the last president of the United States, and comparing our country with the Vatican and what's been going on in the Vatican, where the prophecies of Saint Malachi said that the last pope was the in extremis pope, and he was the pope that was going to be the end of the Catholic Church. Well, the end, you could say our democracy ended on January 6th, 2020, and what happened at that point was we are now starting into a new cycle. Donald Trump was the in extremis pope. So now you could, okay, so and that is the end of it right there. Joe Biden, President Biden, is the new president, just like Pope Francis is the new pope, and they're coming up with new ideas, but they're facing all this backlashes and they can't deal with it. And this is the same thing that's happening to Pope Francis. So we are like the overview. The United States is the overview country. We are a melting pot of all the different cultures in our world, and because people have come here over the years, and now what we can do is, if we can bring peace in the United States, then it can happen in the rest of the world. If our organization, because we're parallel to the 200 countries, if we can bring peace in amongst our 200 families, like a community, then we can also extrapolate the same ideas out onto the global level. We can function as advisors to go to the different countries and solve the problems based on what the proposals are. So we're looking at elections now, and we're looking at a constitutional amendment. But, okay, so now, how over the years, how many constitutional amendments have come up proposed with balanced budget? Okay, how about getting rid of the Electoral College? Okay, so let's say we're starting into a new cycle now that's going to last 1,000 years, the 1,000 years of peace. So over the next 1,000 years, we are setting up a structure that is going to last 1,000 years, and we need to figure out from this vantage point where we're going, how to get there, where we are, where we're going, and how to get there. So we want to spend the next 1,000 years of peace, the prophesied 1,000 years of peace, how to make that happen. So we can take in one process this idea of setting up this international government. We can deal with balanced budget. We can get rid of the Electoral College. We can redo campaign financing, like getting rid of Citizens United. People have been trying to do that, to get rid of the dark money idea, the need to have donations, contributions. You know, they say, well, this election in Georgia is going to be the highest amount of money is going to go into it. But what happens if there's just like, we have to make this as close as we can so we can get as much money into our coffers as we can? Okay, don't we just want to have elected officials who go in and can solve problems, instead of being able to be, let's say, the people like Tommy Tuberville and Herschel Walker, you know, the coach and the star football player, you know, what do they don't know anything. They've never really done anything other than be popular football players or coaches. You know, they don't know about government. They don't know about solving problems. They don't know anything. They're just popular. So in a way, those are, and who knows, they could be really good, but chances are they don't have any experience in it, and it's just bringing in the voters. In a way, it's like George George W. Bush bringing in the Christians and into the Republican Party, and then equating Christianity and Republicans and apple pie and the Constitution and patriotism, and to getting all that support, and then messing up, saying that Christianity, we're a Christian nation, which we are, but we're also, let's say, a Muslim nation, and we have all these other religions. We have freedom of religion, and that's our First Amendment. So how can you have the Second Amendment without having the First Amendment? So do we have to address all these issues this way, by looking at all these little nitpicking things that people just keep cutting off and trying to erase? Or can we just step back and say, this is the beginning of a new millennium? We're 22 years into a new millennium. Can't we say, if this is going to be 1,000 years, what is going to be the world going to be like in 1,000 years? What do we have to do to step back? An example of this is on a small basis. You can say local governments have to have, let's say, a 20-year plan. So they can't just keep fixing potholes on the road. They can fix potholes, but they have to have a 20-year plan that says, okay, sometimes we have to just repave the whole thing. So we can do that, but what do we want to do to repave that if we're going to just not stop fixing potholes and say we don't need to put that money into this, or let's take it from here and put it here, and we don't want to fund this, so we're going to put it here. We don't want that kind of thing. If we are paying taxes into our government for them to do things that we can't do on our own, I have a road over here, and there were people who were so tired of the potholes that they went out and put a bag of concrete into the hole and then just fixed it themselves. That should not have to be. It should be like a planning process that solves the problem, so we don't have to think about it, so we can go back to create the life we want without interference. We shouldn't have to keep on doing things over and over again in little ways and then have them cut back because the money's been used for something else, and we're not going to pay attention to that. We're going to be blind to that idea. And that's basically what's happening in a lot of the states or towns or whatever, where the money has been misused. So we want to step back and take a bigger picture. If our last election there was an attempt to overturn it, and the coming election, what is going to be overturned and controlled and manipulated, and the Russians are coming in to interfere with it, and the Chinese are coming in, and supposedly the Iranians and all these other people are coming in and messing up our voting machines, and we don't know the truth. It's time to step back and look at things from a different perspective and say, enough is enough. And then we're going to look at this whole idea, so from the bigger picture, so we can pave the 1,000 years without the potholes. What can we do that will make it last that 1,000 years? And that is to create a structure that stands, the first thing is it stands on unalienable rights. So everyone has the right to create the life they want without interference. Then we can take ideas like what can we do if Tommy Tuberville and Herschel Walker are these two great football players, the heroes, let's call them heroes in football. That doesn't mean they're heroes when it comes to the running a government, solving problems. So how about if we make it so that anybody can solve problems, and it's held like a competition, like the Olympics, where you start out, you have to be pretty good at what you're doing on the local level. You train and you do things, and you learn how to do all the totals and the leaps and everything. And then what you do is you solve by solving problems. You're the Olympics of solving problems, and then you go to like the regionals. You go to this local level, then to the state level. And then you can go to the regionals, and then you can go to the nationals. And then what you do is then those people who win at the national level, the presidents will go on to the international level and go to the Olympics. Those will be the people who win. The Olympians of solving problems. And then instead of being there a long time, they'll have like one term to take their plans, introduce them in as legislation. The presidents, because they'll all be equal, they'll vote on those ideas, and then it will become international law. And because it will be based on, like the House of Representatives, based on population, and the small countries will have more power in the Senate because that'll be their rights. The big country that is a bully country, we're going to go in and take your natural resources. We control you. They won't. The little countries will have their rights, and the bigger countries will have their natural resources without having to bully other countries. Okay, you see, it's possible to solve problems by just looking at them. I have 20 root cause cards. If you know the root cause of a problem, with a planning process you can solve it. So one of our projects is to introduce this information. We're going to have the first one. Our first government proposal, the exit strategy for Iraq, is like ending the conflicts. That's like stopping everything, taking things to court. It's like fighting it out in court rather than the battlefield. We don't need to wage war. The Ukraine war, if we just all agreed to solve the problems by taking it to court, all those people would still be basically alive. Okay, we don't have to spend $700 million or billions of dollars, whatever, to support sending them weapon systems, because technically speaking, because that can be like a landmine that's been set to drag our country down. Economically, militarily, I read in the news that there are many Russians in Cuba now, living in Cuba, and Putin, if you recall, there was a Cuban Missile Crisis. So if Russia is sending their hypersonic missiles, the good weapons and the good soldiers to Cuba to wage a war on the United States, okay, let's put the brakes on that by starting the plan for the international government and encouraging our leaders to go along with that. We don't need to have Putin's. I live just a few blocks from the ocean. The Pacific Ocean is that way and that way for me. A few blocks, they can be here in 5 minutes, so to speak, if they land here. I don't want to have a nuclear weapon in my state, and I'm sure nobody else does either. The hypersonic missiles can hit from Cuba, it can hit the entire East Coast. So let's just say enough is enough. So I ask that you not react out of fear, not be terrorized, but just like, share, and subscribe, because this information is important. We don't have to worry about that election, and we don't have to worry about the one that's coming. What we can do is we can just start to like, share, and subscribe, and share this information with your family and friends. And then let's just all work together to stop a nuclear war that's coming. Okay? If Donald Trump, for example, had 20 some boxes of papers that he had, and he took all of that information with him to Mar-a-Lago, and he didn't leave Joe Biden any information about what he had done, like what he had said to Kim Jong-un in North Korea, talking about nuclear wars. If he took that information and didn't pass it on, at the inauguration, on inauguration day, what he did was he walked out, and he didn't pass the baton, you could say, in a relay race. He didn't pass the baton on to Joe Biden. So what information does Joe Biden have about what happened before? He knows what happened with Obama, but what happened here and what he's doing, let's say that in extremis president, Trump was the in extremis president who's trying everything he can do to be known by history as being successful, to take back control, to take power, and basically you could say Pope Francis is doing the same thing. He's going, Benedict XVI basically was supposed to be the olive pope. He was supposed to be the peace pope, but then I'll go into that in another thing. So who the olive pope is, because it wasn't Benedict. Joseph Ratzinger was the last pope. There was another pope that was named by God. That's there. So now we are going to then I'll tell you about that in another video when I'm ready to do that. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 1,000 years of peace and what we can do for 1,000 years of peace. This has been a time of profound darkness. The schism that's tearing apart the country is just getting down to the individual level, and people are dying, and there's shootings every day. People feel they can't get their life, and let's say the conflict with abortion and rights, and it's like everything is collapsing. But there's actually a way to go up from this point, and that is, if there's a flood coming through, we have a way to solve this deluge of crises that are coming based on the fear of losing our rights. People who are dragged into a genocide have been denied their unalienable rights, their rights. So this is an example of a time of genocide. And now the exit strategy for Iraq introduces a protocol for ending genocides. So what I'd like you to do is, instead of just sitting back and saying, oh, this is nice or whatever, I'd like you to like, share, and subscribe, like I said, and help me end the nuclear war that's coming, and help me end the genocide that's taking away everybody's rights. Okay, unalienable rights. So, thank you.